That's Michael behind the camera, and I'm standing next to the 2028, that's right, 2028 Mercedes-Benz CLA Hybrid 4MATIC. Now when they arrive in Canada, they're going to start with the front-wheel drive in 2027, then we're going to get this, the all-wheel drive 4MATIC, in 2028. There's a lot of cool stuff going on here, so let us show you around. Mercedes estimates 0 to 100 should happen in about 7.1 seconds, and our seat-of-the-pants accelerator, which is standard post-media issue, feels that's about right. The all-electric motoring mentioned earlier does work as advertised, and the tachometer reads 0 for lengthy portions of a downhill run in which we were testing the car. Fuel economy, well, we saw a indicated average of 10.1 litres per 100 kilometers on a 95 kilometer run going up some steep Alps, and then 4.1 litres per 100 kilometers coming back down roughly the same road. So basic math that's available to Wyatt Earp tells us that's about a 7.1 litre per 100 kilometer average, and that's, to our mind, well within expectations for a hybrid of this size. It was unmentioned, but we highly suspect that premium fuel is required, so be sure to budget for that. Whilst you're driving, Mercedes engineers told us that there's a 22 kilowatt or 30 horsepower ceiling for electric driving. And what that means is that if you're light on the throttle, if you demand more than 30 horsepower at any one time, the 1.5 litre four-banger is going to kick in. So we should note that it does kick back in as if it is wrapped in Harry Potter's invisibility cloak. It is very seamless, and the car does reset to comfort mode upon driving, which is annoying. But the Sport does seem to keep the gas fires burning constantly, and Eco was surprisingly aggressive, more so than Comfort in fact. Looking at some more of the greasy guts, a cutaway model of the transmission that was on display showed the starter motor buried deep within its bowels, and that's a terrifying thought for the practically minded mechanic 10 or 15 years down the road. The all-wheel drive system, it's a 4MATIC banner, and it acquitted itself really well in blindingly blizzard-like conditions up a mountain pass. Deep snow on the road demanded the CLA's electronic stability control be turned off because momentum is your friend when you're going through deep snow. But when you're hammering the drive mode button until it says Sport, that'll kick about half of the power to the rear wheels, up to that amount. And it was astonishingly easy to rotate the CLA on slippery surfaces given the type of platform upon which this car is built. It does prove that one needn't necessarily spend a bundle to get a relatively entertaining driving partner from the Mercedes catalog. In addition to the Mercedes badge itself, interior luxury is always a key selling point in this segment, and customers are looking for a taste of the good life without completely blowing the budget. Every CLA comes with a pretty expansive fixed panoramic roof, and that's a feature which does brighten the interior but doesn't intrude on headroom because there are no bulky mechanisms required to open and close the thing. In fact, this 6'6" driver, I really had no trouble getting comfortable in the front row, but headroom is always going to be at a premium for tall folks sitting in the back seat of a CLA. A debt must be paid to that stylish and sloping roofline, after all. In terms of the interior and how it looks, Mercedes is a brand which has been leaning really heavily into expressive lighting signatures, both inside and out, for several years now, and that carries through for the CLA. There are a lot of entertaining lighting going on inside. If you want it, you can turn it all off if you don't. Stretching clear across the cabin from pillar to post is the CLA's interpretation of a Mercedes hyperscreen. Optional on the CLA, and here it is comprised of 3 different displays: a 10.25-inch cluster for the driver, a 14.0-inch screen for the center infotainment, and another 14.0-inch display right in front of the passenger. It is optional, but it's likely worth the cash simply for bragging rights because it does look good, it has crisp graphics, and its response times are very, very quick. However many screens you get, all of them are going to rock the new Mercedes-Benz operating system, and that was developed in-house to incorporate a whole host of apps and navigation based on Google Maps. The CLA is appropriately spacious, but it's not so wide as an S-Class after all, so that's why Mercedes has decided to, unlike some of the other hyperscreens, only permit the screen in the middle instead of the one in front of the passenger to serve up some navigation functions. Passing judgment on material quality in a pre-production car, that's always fraught with risk, but we're going to observe there's plenty of soft materials in the pre-production car we were driving, all the way down to door trim where no one generally ever looks. Bare plastic did appear in the lower parts of some of the consoles, but that's fine. You know, the glove box did feel a bit cheap, but again, pre-production jitters, we think. The rest of the cabin and its touch points are nearly equal to in a contemporary E-Class. The outboard air vents, they look a lot like mid-century modern interpretations of a jet engine. We think it's a great bit of visual theater. There are some too clever by half technology annoyances that rear their heads. While Mercedes did relent and place real buttons on the steering wheel for cruise control and audio volume, getting rid of the haptic controls that were there, they moved the start button to the end of the gear selector stalk, so that's integrated with the park button. That's not so good, since this driver never did figure out how to exit the vehicle and leave it running after putting it in park. Some other unnamed genius also decided to use just 2 window buttons on the driver's door panel to control all 4 portals. The alert amongst you will remember Volkswagen once did something similar and backtracked after owners foamed at the mouth, so we'll see if this particular effort sticks. And no, viewers, do not adjust your sets. 2028 is indeed the correct model year for this car. These pre-production vehicles we drove, a 228 horsepower all-wheel drive CLA 220 4MATIC hybrid, on which our driving impressions are based, will appear in Canada for the 28 model year. Mercedes has told us it will lead the CLA models with a less expensive and less powerful front-wheel drive model just 1 year prior to that. While it isn't a crossover, a body style which does big business for Mercedes, the CLA isn't exactly an invisible model here in Canada either. The brand sold nearly 1,200 CLA models to Canucks in the third quarter of this year alone, making it Mercedes' biggest car seller, ahead of the C-Class, which found about 600 homes. This suggests Canadians continue to enjoy compact but premium cars. With a fresh hybrid powertrain and a snazzy interior, this new CLA is likely to build on that trend. Pricing for Canada will be announced closer to its on-sale date. For Driving.ca, I'm Matthew Guy.